Okay, so hi. Um, we're going to go through a little bit the entire graduate program, but with a focus on the M.S.AUD post-professional program. But we'll talk a little bit about all the faculty and staff at UCLA Architecture and Urban Design. And I'm Greg Lynn. I've been a professor here for 20 years, something like that. And have taught in a lot of different roles, but most recently for the last 8 years or so, I've been mostly teaching in the post-professional program out at the Ideas campus. So, which is what we'll be talking about today. So I think the first thing is to we'll spend about 30 minutes or so. I'll go through everything, and then there's opportunities for questions. And if you have questions while I'm going through it, just send me a note in the chat, and we can pause and talk about anything specific. So you don't have to hold on to questions. I think the agenda is we'll talk a little bit about Los Angeles and why that's a special place and how UCLA plays a role in the city. We'll talk about the program in general, the department in general. We'll talk about the specifics of the program and the Ideas campus and labs, and then also some details about the post-professional degree program. So those will be the topics we'll go through. Okay. So first, I mean, one of the reason that I'm at UCLA and all of the studios that I teach out at Ideas draw from the Los Angeles metropolitan area. I would say that Ideas started very much because of being in Los Angeles, and it's one of the places where you have a combination of aerospace and high technology in terms of engineering innovation. You have Hollywood and a lot of digital innovation associated with that in the entertainment industry. You have, I know Hollywood gets a little bit of an odd persona, but you have incredibly brilliant people here at the universities and the UC system. I mean, UCLA is the highest ranked public university in the country. It's a research university with a lot of different things to draw from it. And recently, Los Angeles has become the entertainment wing of a lot of what's going on in Silicon Valley with Apple Television and Netflix and things like that. So there's a lot going on here between entertainment, between mobility. Like here is where Bird scooters and Uber and Lyft and everything gets piloted here. So there's a lot that we draw from in the program that really comes from the city. It's also the center for now culture. So in terms of art, you know, painting, sculpture, and fine arts, it's got a higher concentration of practicing artists than New York does, and great museums and things. So we really draw a lot from that at the university. And we think of it as a place where things get launched. And we try to capture that spirit with the Ideas program in particular. I think that the UCLA, I said already that it's part of the UC system. The UC system is an incredible educational system, honestly. There's really nothing like it in the world. And UCLA is, you know, one of the larger universities. It's a research university. There's a lot of innovation that goes on with medicine. What we call the North Campus, which is where the fine arts are. That's where the architecture Perloff Hall is. We started the Ideas campus because we needed to have the space for large robots and large-scale construction and motion capture studios and augmented reality and VR spaces. So we're in more of a kind of big laboratory building off campus. You can see here the map. The the letter A is where the Ideas Campus is, which is where I am right now. And there's a photograph. We'll look at some other images there. And then you can see where the B is in Westwood is where Perloff Hall is at UCLA's main campus. Also, there's a sculpture building that's very close by to us right now at Ideas. So there are some programs that have these off-campus satellites where we can take advantage of space that we just don't have on main campus. And your classes will get split a little bit between Perloff Hall here, which is where the architecture building is on campus, and then out here at the Ideas Lab. Also on campus, there are 3 museums that are part of the School of Art and Architecture. So those are also, the 3 of them are on main campus as well. Okay, so Ideas Campus is made up of 4 studios. We have laboratories here for various kinds of machines and technology. We work a lot here with outside industry and collaborators. So for instance, when I mentioned aerospace, we've done a studio in collaboration with Boeing. I did one of those. I also had the benefit of doing studios in collaboration with both the Walt Disney Company and Cirque du Soleil, meaning working with entertainment. I've done studios with Red Bull, which is both a kind of media and event, was what we were focusing on with Red Bull. There have been studios with Toyota where they look at urban plans and designing cities for mobility and transportation. We're presently working with DesignWorks, which is kind of the innovation studio of the BMW Group. Studios have worked with SpaceX, with Hyperloop, with a whole variety of companies who are either based or have a very large footprint in Los Angeles. And again, all from entertainment and engineering and various kinds of industries. So I said we moved out here because we needed space for large robots. We have a technology lab where we have 2 very large 5-axis articulating universal robot arms, both of them on rails so they can move back and forth. Then we have a smaller bay with some very intricate, smaller scale articulating robot arms, all of them from KUKA. And we drive these with all kinds of software. So we'll use RhinoCam or DelCam. We'll also drive them with Maya. We drive them with Unity. We use them interactively, where you can use hand controllers from Unity to drive the robots. So there's a lot of innovation that goes into how we use these things in various kinds of ways. This is a video by the studio that was led by Guvench Ozel, and with the Design Media Arts program with a faculty member, Casey Rios. Guvench built these deformable screens, which were live mapped to a projector, so that projected data was synchronized with the moving robot arm and the moving screen, so that the 2 things were synced up kind of one-to-one. And a lot of this was driven by cameras looking at gesture analysis, so you were even able to drive this interactively. So I would say that bridging the gap between virtual technologies of digital design and imagery and physical, large-scale physical things like these large robots is one of the things that's unique about our program, is that we're very good at taking the digital into the real at very large scale with different kinds of technologies. We do a lot with both VR and AR, and I think this now is probably across all 4 of the teams, that at every presentation and conversation, you'll see tablets and goggles augmenting models and drawings and scenes with digital information. You'll see a lot of VR demonstrations where people will be watching what someone's seeing with goggles on a screen. We spend a lot of time looking at how both you represent and design, as well as actually how you build. I mean, one of the most interesting things that we do with augmented reality is a lot of models and projects get built using those tools rather than with drawings or 2D data. So these are all examples, mostly from Guvench's studio, of AR and VR environments and how they're presented and experienced in reviews. We've got a big fabrication shop, so we're able to not just build architectural models, but also build large-scale mock-ups and, you know, kind of environments you can walk around in. UCLA was actually the first school of architecture to have a CNC mill, like, I don't know, 20-some years ago. So it's very second nature here that we are very good about going directly from a computer desktop to a fabrication machine, whether it's a laser cutter or a CNC router or a 3D printer. You see a lot of multimedia models and environments built with these digitally controlled tools. And it's open, you know, 24/7. Everybody gets trained on the tools, and then they have access to them all the time. There's a lot of public events and exhibitions that happen out at Ideas and also at Perloff. And because we have a huge event at the end of the year, we really transform the whole space into like a big architecture show. We call it Rumble. But you'll see a lot of times very big immersive environments here, which in most cases, you're space constrained, so you can't actually build these kinds of large-scale dynamic constructions, but it's one of the unique things that we do out here at Ideas. We have two lecture series at Perloff Hall. We have a lecture series with symposiums, and then at Ideas, we try to do a series of little bit different, like summits or big symposiums where we'll have 3 to 5 people come in and all talk specifically about a certain topic. And oftentimes it's related to the partnerships. So you can see in the image on your left, this is where on main campus we bring in architects and theorists and historians, and it's much more of a lecture format where we have weekly lectures. Then out on the image on your right, you can see at Ideas, there are these 3 main symposiums: Wild in the Streets, which was really about mobility and robotics; World Making, which was part of the entertainment studio and was really about entertainment and creation with the thought of storytelling and entertainment; and then Spatial Computing, which was much more about very, you know, parallel processed, very high speed visualization and VR and AR, along with themes of machine learning and smart machines. And that was related to Guvench's studio. So the symposiums are usually led by one of the instructors at Ideas, and we bring in partners who are working with us and publicize some of the research that's happening out here. So the program, we've changed the name to Master of Science in Architecture and Urban Design. As always, we admit students with the equivalent of a Bachelor of Architecture degree. So this program is meant more for people that have already practiced a little bit or have already finished their curriculum in architecture and want to do something which is looking a little bit more at what would make them relevant for contemporary practice and leading in terms of either technology or a certain specific approach to innovation in architecture. We expect an equivalent of an NAAB accredited program for everybody that we admit. And it's, as you know, a one-year program that's actually a calendar year long. So here at UCLA, we have quarters, and we start with the summer quarter, and then we have 3 quarters during the year. So for the M.S.AUD, you're here for a quarter longer in the summertime. So, but again, it's also a STEM certified program that's eligible for OPT extensions. And that's something we've taken care of now for a few years, and none of that changes with this program. And it's, you know, it's really, the curriculum hasn't changed at all, really. Just the name of the program has from previous years. So as I said, it's a one-year post-professional program. And really what we're trying to do is train and expose our students to the things that'll make sure they're relevant, not the year they get out of school, but actually, let's say 10 years from now when they're out of school. So I have to say, when I teach in the M.Arch.II program, there's much more of an emphasis on making sure the students are relevant and qualified for the next 5 years of practice. When I'm teaching out at Ideas, it's really about looking at where architecture is going and making sure that these students are exposed to things which is going to make them leaders in the field 10 years from now. That's why you see the focus on so much technology and innovation in this program. In terms of the curriculum and what you take, in the summer, it's a studio where everybody is all taking the same studio curriculum. So regardless of if you're in the entertainment studio or mobility, in the summertime, everybody works all together on a similar topic. Everyone also takes a technology seminar and a critical studies seminar. And we see this as a kind of establishing a common ground for everybody, but also making sure that everyone meets all the different people in the different studios, because we tend to be very focused. It's really good to start off by getting to know everybody in that summer quarter. In the fall, you take a research studio with a specific instructor, which also is linked to a technology seminar with that specific instructor. You get to take an elective, whether it's here at Ideas or on main campus, it's up to you. In the winter, very similar thing, although the technology seminars open up to people from other studios a little more. In the winter, you get to take another elective. And then in the spring, the technology seminars stop, and we really just focus on wrapping things up with the studio and taking an elective. In terms of OPT STEM extension, what this is for any international students, when you graduate from the M.S.AUD program, you're eligible to work for 2 years after graduation in a field which takes advantage of your STEM accredited degree. Sorry, so 3 years. So you go first for a year and then you extend it for 2 more after that. And that's, you know, we also help people find places to work in LA very frequently just because we're so connected to industry out here. Yep. So now we'll just go through some examples of the work. So in the summer session, again, it's much like a kind of a preparatory course that focuses really on learning a whole lot of tools and techniques. Not everybody comes in here knowing how to run a Coupa robot, which is what's filming this view right now. Not everybody knows augmented reality and how to bring files in and set them up in programs like Unity, which is what you're seeing here. Not everybody knows how to use a 3D printer or a laser cutter or a CNC mill. So we have thematic topics, but what we're really focused on is having everybody learn all of the available skills in this kind of 6-week crash course of both 3D modeling and fabrication and presentation with AR. So then the studios are broken up into 4 themes. And again, I would emphasize that there's a lot of crossover and discussion between the different studios, but also the focus stays very tight. So the first is entertainment. This usually involves a collaboration with an entertainment partner in Los Angeles. It looks at the role of storytelling, at generating creative content, at using media and film, thinking how all these industries can use architecture. Um, for example, that's when I worked with Disney and Cirque. It's an amazing program and very unique to UCLA and Los Angeles. The Mobility Studio is looking at trends. A lot of new mobility gets incubated here in Los Angeles, whether it's ride hailing or autonomous cars or scooter sharing or any number of things. So we look at new modes of transportation, but also what the needs are and what the infrastructure is required to adapt to all these things. And we work with the city and work with planners and all kinds of people in Los Angeles to help guide us on that. The technology studio is focused on not so much fabrication. I think early on it was. One of the things that I'm excited about is UCLA is now understands that's kind of a problem that's been solved. And so what this studio does is it looks at how machines can actually assist in the design process, whether it's through machine learning or training machines to see and recognize patterns. It's in thinking about how we build without relying on 2D drawings, but using extended realities of augmentation and virtual reality. And it's also about how to create spaces which are immersed with media and technology. Then finally, the Urban Strategy Studio is looking at growth. It's looking at all kinds of requirements in LA and also globally. So sometimes we use Los Angeles as a think tank. Tom Main has looked at Haiti. He's looked at all kinds of topics. So sometimes we draw from LA, sometimes we go more afield. But these are the 4 themes that get looked at in all the idea studios. So here's just some examples of the kind of work that gets done. Natasha Sandmeyer is teaching the entertainment studio right now. These are some images from 2 years ago, I believe, but you can see that, let's say, the kinds of environments one would associate with film get thought in terms of real physical architecture here. So this is an image from a film. It's you know, the kind of thing that gets done in entertainment studios is everything from building sets to pre-visualizing movement and compositing. A whole lot of the skills from the film world get brought in to see how they would affect architecture. You can see here, kind of, again, I was saying that a lot of large scale things get built here. So you can see here that you know, whether it's using a green screen, whether it's using the parking lot as a temporary set to build things, you know, the entertainment studio tends to work very big and very immersive. So the models are things you can walk in and film in. And then here's an example of, you know, some of the tools that get used, both for, you know, manipulating objects in space, as well as for looking at light and color and movement and pre-visualization. So in the technology seminars, usually I would say new skills or new techniques are focused on. So in some cases, it's how to, you know, dynamically populate scenes, you know, using game engines. Sometimes it's learning how to do hyper-realistic renderings and how to use shading and lighting. I think, you know, and a lot of the students from the mobility studio or the urban planning studio will get a chance to take some of the entertainment studios technology seminars. So very kind of skill building, like learning skills you wouldn't typically learn in an architecture school. With the mobility studio, this is some images of projects from last year's studio where we looked at kind of 3 scales of mobility, from the market all the way up to the corporate campus. And what we were doing last year was bringing the light mobility that's so synonymous with Los Angeles, like bird scooters and bike share, and seeing how you could bring those indoors into a corporate campus to rethink transportation and circulation. We do a lot with machines that can see and navigate. So 2 days ago, my whole studio was over getting followed around by land drones and walking around the city with machines that followed them. So we think a lot about moving furniture, moving building components, and intelligent machines that kind of know where to move and go in space. These are some views from the technology seminar where we actually program robots and use machine vision to detect objects and navigate and path plan. So in 10 weeks, we had students actually taking a turtle bot or even building custom robots and navigating them around. So they learn a fair amount about robotics, so they really understand how to design spaces for robots that use machine vision. With Guvench and Benjamin in the technology studio, these seminars tend to be very much about how to mix different mediums in space simultaneously. So how to take a VR model and sync that up with a physical space, how to take augmented experiences and pre-visualize those or fill them with other kinds of data. And then more recently, they're doing a lot with machine learning, which you'll see where they'll actually have computers looking at images and getting trained on images and actually starting to do some of the design work, which is then guided by the students. So these are examples of, that last one.
Coming.
Okay. So this is an example of where they took images from Los Angeles, where they were building 3D models from drone photography. They were then taking context images, images from art and design, training the machines to compose them, and then having a machine actually start to do the designs itself, having trained it on this combination of images. Yep, and then this is their technology seminar, again, where they're training machines on geometry and images, and then figuring out how those images, get built up. These also are all VR images, so most of this content is always presented interactively. So you can see that the hand controllers are what's moving that virtual element. And then they'll do the same thing with the KUKA robot here, where you see the moving of the hand controllers. We're actually moving the KUKA there. Yep, and that's the robot setup with the 2 robots on the rails. And you can see here they're augmenting data now on top of also the moving robots. With the urban strategy, this is being done right now with Jeffrey Inaba. But some of the images you'll see will be from the M.S.AUD studio. But with urban strategies, we're always looking at kind of the large mega scale forces that change architecture. So I would say this is not an urban planning studio. It's very different than that. It's always looking at the architecture scale, but it's looking at the urban forces that guide architectural decisions. So this example of, kind of large scale land art and land movement and the history of the growth and development of LA was one of the topics that was looked at. It's things that are going on here in LA right now. I don't know if you're aware of it, but there's 52 miles of the LA River that's being planned presently. There are big developments going on around downtown right now. And so all of these kinds of contemporary initiatives that are going on end up kind of feeding the discussions in the studio. And that's what Jeff is doing right now. This is part of the technology seminars where visualizing, organizing, and cataloging a lot of data that goes into how you think about urban form and what shapes architecture. So in this case, they were looking at a whole range of global cities and focusing on the natural and the artificial landscapes, and then comparing all of those cities with a common diagram set. And the skills they learn in the technology seminars for how to diagram information and data like this is then what gets used in the studios focusing on Los Angeles in this case. Yep. So hopefully that gives you an idea of like the topics and also the kinds of work that gets done. And so that's all I've got as a presentation. So maybe now if you have some questions, we can open it up for you. Just architects. Yeah, okay. So the admission is always that we're admitting students with a Bachelor of Architecture degree or an equivalent. I would say we do sometimes get students with very specific knowledge or experience. But even though you see a whole lot of digital technology, nobody comes in with those skills, frankly. I think it's, I know I'm even happier when people don't come in with the skills than when they do already. So like running the big KUKA robots, doing the augmented reality stuff, building a robot or programming a robot to drive around, that's stuff everybody learns while they're here. So I think if I'm understanding your question or your concern, yes. So for us, we're already thinking about cities where cars have a limited degree of autonomy, let's say, or where there's a lot of ride sharing now rather than the need for parking. So Los Angeles is a place where very early we start thinking about building buildings with no parking at all. Like if you build a housing project now in Los Angeles, you don't have to provide a single parking space for a car because the city wants to promote people using ride sharing and public transportation. So architects need to get in front on that. And so we really try to think about these new problems. And sometimes to do it, we need to have a little familiarity with a lot of these technologies. So the route planning software that Uber might use might be the kind of algorithm that the technology studio uses, or it might be the kind of algorithm that the urban strategy studio uses. So we really try to teach a little bit of these technological innovations to the architecture students so they have a better intuitive understanding of the problem. The other thing is, we are able to teach it through that kind of 6-week summer program plus the technology seminars. all the skills you saw were taught in the 1 year that people were here.
Wow.
So, and frankly, I think I speak for all the faculty when I say we actually like it that way. Like, we don't go looking around to accept people that know how to use KUKA robots, because we actually like to start fresh with people that don't know anything about them, because you get more interesting results that way. You don't need to. No, it's a question we get a lot from people. Also, when people get accepted, they'll say, "Can you tell me how to learn to use a robot over the summer?" And we just say, "No, just, you know, get rested up and be ready for a big year, and we'll teach you all that stuff once you get here." Between the faculty and also the team here, you know, we have a whole lot of technical knowledge that gets transmitted really quickly. So, but yeah, I mean, we do have people here that are roboticists and electrical engineers that teach with us, but we don't need that from the students. We just transmit that knowledge. We don't actually need you to bring it. No, just email. I mean, as long as you come here, it really, by the end of the year, there's no difference between the people that knew like animation or, you know, an augmented reality program already and the ones who didn't. It's by the end, you can't tell the difference. So.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. Well, I mean, I would say skill-wise, I think the technology studio or maybe the entertainment studio could be good. I think in terms of skills, but I would think maybe, you know, topic-wise, you almost could pick any one of the four and you would be fine. That set of skills would be used in any one of the four. So because there are, you know, let's say 50 to 70 students and, you know, 15 or 20 faculty and assistants out here, once somebody gets onto a tool, it goes across all the other studios pretty quickly. So I think that your experience would be very applicable to any one of them. But I think if you had to say, if you wanted to really go deeply down that path, I would probably say the technology studio, the kind that Kuvench is teaching now, or maybe the entertainment studio like Natasha is doing. For the mobility studio, all my students right now are using a Unity game engine to simulate the movement of bird scooters and electric bicycles and cars. So, you know, I think it would be applicable to a lot of different studios, frankly. No, I think this is one of the first questions I'd ask of any program. So let's say a student who graduates knowing how to use Unity as a game engine, but knows how to connect it with Revit for BIM modeling, like you just said, that person's going to have a well-paying job much faster than somebody that knows more conventional architectural methods. Because I think, as you know, the field is really changing very rapidly. So,
yes, correct.
For instance, the technology studio where people are learning or using machine learning for pattern recognition, you know, most of the large offices now are really looking for people that can do machine learning to expedite drafting tasks. So these kinds of skills make people very employable, we find. I mean, it's, you know, for a person that wants to graduate and open their own small office and do house renovations, no, it's maybe not so applicable. But if you want to go to a larger firm, which is kind of trying to be innovative and also just productive, just save time and money, the skills people come out with makes them very employable. That's why we do this out here. It's not like an experiment. We actually are just trying to train people with the skills that'll make them the most employable. It's, to be honest, there are a lot of people with 15 years of experience even that have come and done well. So it's the fact that you've been working for some time and want to come back to school is not, there's no barrier there. The workload is really heavy because to do all this in 1 year, it's a very, very heavy workload. So that part is hard, and I understand that it's, you know, that the university, it's an expensive proposition, and so working is sometimes necessary. It's hard to pull off. I don't know anybody that's really done it. I mean, some people work over the holidays or maybe, help some offices out for a competition here and there, but not really full time. It's would be really hard. No, I would say I probably didn't really give that program the right description. So the three of the studios I would say are very much draw from partners who are in LA. The Urban Strategies studio is very different in the sense that it's historically been extremely global. And when Tom Main was teaching it, it was in Haiti, Madrid, and Singapore? No. China, in Shanghai, sorry, in Shanghai. So, and then when Jimenez-Lai taught it, they actually looked at Tuvalu, the islands which are flooding, and tried to think about how to build, not rebuild, but build an urban island on the island of Tuvalu after it had been flooded. Tried to think about how to retain some of the character of the island in a completely constructed city. So typically, they actually aren't based in LA. I mean, Tom has done an LA urban strategy studio. Jeffrey is looking at LA, but he's also looking all over the world. So it's a much more global perspective, I would say. And usually the sites are not LA based. They're based somewhere else. So in that sense, it's different. And the partners are usually not LA based. Like when it was Haiti, it was the government of Haiti was the partner. So yeah, but anyway, yes, it's much more global and it's not really focused on LA so much. I mean, in the sense that we can generalize, the skill that those students really learn, which is probably unique also to that studio, is they're very good at looking at data and patterns at the largest scale and condensing those into architectural arguments. And those, I would say the graduates of that program tend to really flourish in larger offices where the architects are very much involved in defining the program and working closely with development. So again, slightly bigger international firms, but I think those graduates tend to do very well in architecture firms, where a developer will come to the architect and say, "I'm coming to you to help me develop the brief for a large scale development." That's a little bit also based on the people that teach those studios, but I would say nobody really goes into urban planning. They all stay in architecture, but they tend to work in offices where the work is at a larger scale.
Okay.
But
Do you guys have
conceptual
a
thinking and programming is really the skill they learn the best. Yep. So yet on the UCLA AUD website, there's a lot of examples of student projects, but actually from the Urban Strategy Studio, there's a series of maybe 4 or 5 books that document a lot of the work that was done in these different cities. I think those publications may be online. That I don't know.
Okay.
I'm sure probably somebody scanned them and put them online.
I think one is on Amazon. The heating now is on Amazon.
Yeah.
We can, if you want to email me your question, I can return you some links later. You can email me. I think we have time for one more question. Make it count.
Oh, that's interesting. So I would say that we accept, we're always looking for a diversity of people with experiences. So you don't want to overthink it too much. I think what you really want to do is pick the projects which are the most kind of coherently showing your interests and your experience, if any of it is relevant to the program. I think it's definitely, so when we're accepting people into the M.Arch.II program, we're kind of looking to see if people have a visual sensibility and if they have experience with a diversity of media, like model building and drawings and landscape scale. I would say here we're really not looking for that as much as we're looking for a little bit of level of maturity and self-awareness. So I would say that probably editing your portfolio and making it as coherent and clear as possible is more important than like showing everything you can so that we see how much experience you have. It's kind of a given that we know that in this program everybody's had more experience and they've already been through a B.Arch program and probably even worked for a while. So I think it's much more we want to kind of see that coherent self-awareness and ability to kind of edit and communicate really clearly what your interests are. Does that help? I would say that is not such a big distinction. I mean, really what we're looking, and I'm sorry to put pressure because I don't really mean it like this, but we kind of love to see your monograph. Like we expect, instead of seeing lots of examples of different stuff, we'd really like to see, you know, kind of what you've worked on from when you were a student and when you've worked and all, but edited together so we get a sense of your design personality. No, that's good. That's the editing I'm talking about. No, then in your case, we want to see the work you did when you were a student. Because we don't, I guess I'm just saying we take it for granted that you've had some experience and some skill, both professionally and academically. So we're really more concerned about fewer things of higher quality.
That's right.
Than we are a whole lot of examples of work.
And then we see it on your CV, your work experience. We'll see it there as well.
Yep.
So that will cover that.
No, I think it's a very international program. The M.Arch.I program is too. I mean, frankly, you'd be surprised how much we know about all the different universities all over the world.
Great.
Okay, well, I hate to say it, but I've got a dozen students that are waiting for me in 1 minute.
So Greg's gonna go, but
Yep.
if you want to email me questions, you're free to do so. My email is in the chat window, and I'll be delighted to answer more questions later. We're also going to have 3 more info sessions coming up. They're on our website with more details on the other studios. So this, Greg is teaching the mobility studio, but we'll have one about the entertainment studio, urban strategy, and technology as well. So you get a chance to meet the other instructors. So feel free to sign up for those as well. All right.
And thanks for taking the time to learn about the program.
Thank you so much for joining. Have a good rest of your day, wherever you are.